In the last episode, I traveled several thousand blocks to gather everything I needed to start building an epic starter base. Because nothing says starter like extreme relocation. I found this frozen mountainous valley, surrounded by great mountains, questionable life choices, and absolutely no regrets. I built a starter base, dug a very large hole, and started filling that hole with useful things such as an industrial scale storage system featuring a copper golem item sorter, a bulk storage system, a completely reasonable 64 furnace smelting array, surprisingly helpful tree farm, and a very basic overworked iron farm, all connected through a centralized item collection system in the middle of the silo because organization is my lifestyle choice. With this episode, I'm taking the silo to the next level, literally, adding some much needed life to the interior, filling the silo with a collection of simple, powerful starter farms, building an absurdly overpowered wither skeleton farm for all the beacons I definitely need, and finally, topping it all off with an appropriately dramatic cherry on the top build. So grab a snack, a warm drink, and get comfortable as I casually spend weeks of my life designing the perfect starter base. So I promised to fill my epic, aggressively overbuilt starter silo with a full lineup of farms, and today I intend to honor that promise with a complete disregard for my own time management. However, for the love of all things lazy, I am absolutely not doing any more digging without a proper collection of beacons. I refuse to keep running in circles repositioning my one lonely overworked beacon, which means I need a solid wither skeleton farm and a way to efficiently, elegantly, and almost disrespectfully delete withers while paying approximately zero attention. But before any of that can happen, I need to collect an unreasonable amount of supplies from all across my world. First up, turtle eggs. Find a beach? Check. Breed some turtles? Check. Acquire eggs? Check. Spend a ridiculous amount of time trying to get more turtles so I can get more eggs faster by waiting for the moon to align at the most inconvenient possible hour? Check. Mojang, in their infinite wisdom, decided turtle eggs hatch faster during a very specific early morning window that no one really knows about. Sigh. Next, I need a pile of technically useless blocks from a nether fortress, all whilst making a very conscious effort not to die. Then, I need slime. A real slime farm is planned, but just probably not today. So today's solution is converting an alarming number of chickens into slimes so I can extract some of that premium, organic green ooze. Nom 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 nom. But yes, I clearly need a better system to get slimes. A few dogs will also come in handy. Who's a good boy? You are. You're all good doggos. Finally, a grab bag of other materials that I'm far too lazy to document in painful detail. So here's a quick summary of everything I need. Feel free to pause the video if you're more patient than I am. With supplies gathered, it's time to find a good nether location for the wither skelly farm. This looks quite promising. Open space, soul sand valley, minimal regret, and hardly any spawn proofing required. Just the way I like it. Time to start building. Thanks to keeping the design simple, stupid, I managed to get this finished and AFK'd for a few hours. The result? Hundreds of wither skeleton heads. Thanks to autocrafters, bone blocks, coal blocks, and even a few blaze rods. Huge shout out to IanXO4, yet another beautifully simple farm, enabling my laziness. Please check out his channel, links down below. Now, all that remains is to spawn and attempt to kill a few withers. For that, I built this pretty helpful device in the end. Stand here, place soul sand here, listen to the boom boom and wither bosses screaming in thanks to me for helping them part with their soul. Perfect. An automatic withering device. Cheesy? Absolutely. Effective? Guaranteed. Finally, I put some of those beacons to good use, ensuring full beacon coverage throughout the silo. No more slow digging for me, for now. Sometimes haste 2 and beacon coverage just isn't enough, right? Yes, that is correct. I need to overcompensate for my Minecraft addiction, and to do that, I must venture deep into the nether to acquire netherite, so I can pretend that I'm good at this game. I am not, and my death counter tends to agree. Ignoring my obvious incompetence, it's time for some netherite hunting. My preferred method is simple. Get down near bedrock, find chunk borders and start mining. I run up and down those borders in the hopes that I eventually get lucky and find enough ancient debris to justify this trip. Not to mention the goal of upgrading to the gooder armor, the goodest tools and the goodest weapons my sanity can afford. And yes, that was some terrible English. I might even throw in some TNT mining. If I'm gonna die, I may as well do it loudly. Next, I need to track down that incredibly annoying upgrade template that was added purely to inconvenience us, which means bastion raiding. Yay! Fun! Surprisingly, this session was not a total disaster. I only died once, with a few close calls, and somehow I managed to recover most of my gear. Here is everything that I gathered, followed by me politely wasting your time upgrading my diamond gear. Thanks netherite, thanks upgrade template. Because this is Minecraft, it wouldn't feel right if I didn't spend several hours digging holes. At least now it should be faster with full beacon coverage. Might as well put that to use. With that done, I can move on to the first farm that is not actually a farm. Yeah, I lied, it's a villager trading hall. This trading hall exists so that I can build other farms with the goodies bought from the villagers, so that I can officially gather emeralds, so that I can trade for things that I could technically get myself or in less inconvenient ways. Efficiency. Right now it's still empty, but it already looks great. I'm waiting for all this copper to oxidize, and once it does, it will reach its final form of aggressive cyan. There are 4 halls, each hall able to hold 16 villagers. For now, I'm only setting up the librarian trades I need, plus a few extras. Each cell, living space / forever home has a button that drops the villager down to a zombie's loving gaze. Infect, cure, repeat, and suddenly everything costs basically nothing. Neat, horrifying, and efficient. P.S. Yes, the vertical mechanism for dropping down these villages is overcomplicated. Nope, I won't be fixing it. Before any kind of trading happens, I need to stop procrastinating and actually move villagers into their forever homes. This includes rehoming and renaming a few zombobs so that they don't despawn. That would kind of be pointless. So I'm going to speed this up to spare you the suffering. For now, I'm keeping this trading hall fairly small. A few farmers and clerics for emeralds, redstone and glowstone, plus a handful of other useful villagers with their semi-useful trades. This helps avoid my PC turning into a space heater due to an excessive amount of villager entities continuously being loaded in. Now, onto the real farms. First off though, some infrastructure. All future farms will feed into a centralized and ice item conveyor of questionable necessity but extreme optimization. Luckily, to get all the ice I need, there is a frozen ocean nearby, so I head there and grab a decent amount of packed ice. Future-proofing. Time to head home and start using this packed ice for some of the farms. The first farm I'm going to be building? Sugarcane. I'm using a lossless design originally created by Tango Tech and slightly modernized by Yella. Again, all links will be in the description. So instead of me needing to repeat that phrase, yeah, just assume that for all the farms and builds that I'm going to be doing, there'll be links in the description. This farm is slightly tricky to build, but the lossless nature of the design sold me. This means no wastage. Half the output gets auto-crafted into paper, which means less work later. The design is tileable, but for now I kept it small with only a few modules. Still more than enough, and I will fill up my bulk pretty quickly. Paper, sugar, cookies, cake, nom 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 nom. Next, bamboo. Almost an identical design, not really for villager trading, but my laziness appreciates the symmetry between this and the sugarcane farm. No auto crafting any of the output yet, but I may convert bamboo later to save on some storage space. I'm also kind of running super low on warped stems or warped fungus and all that goodness, and repeated nether trips are getting dangerous and lower my morale significantly. So next up is a semi-automatic nether fungus farm. This thing prints fungus at a rate that would make money printers jealous. It's so fast and I need to run it so infrequently that I skip storage entirely. I manually keep what I want, compost the rest locally, and feed the generated bone meal straight back into the system. Those fungi then go into my tree farm for infinite warped and crimson logs. Next, my totally original design, just kidding, melon and pumpkin smasher by Il Mango. Stuff grows, observers fire, pistons push, and things break. And then finally all the nom-noms get collected. Simple, reliable, and beautiful. You've probably not noticed, but I avoid rail-based collection systems as if they were the bubonic plague variant. Minecarts plus chunk loading equals pain and minecarts getting stuck. Hoppers only, always, in most of the cases, because that means I need to do less work later down the line. Next up, it's time for villager crops. I'm running dangerously low on farmable crops after setting up villages. Manual farming and waiting for crops to grow is unacceptable, so automation it is. Before my full laziness kicks in, I procrastinate some more by building a tiny semi-automatic crop farm. This should be irritating enough that it motivates me to do better, and by all things holy, it worked. So instead, I built a fully automatic villager-powered playlist crop farm. Beets and wheat use the standard harvest and hopper method for collection. Carrots and potatoes rely on the villagers sharing their food, which hoppers then steal, and then ultimately everything goes into the bulk storage system. More crops means more emerald, which means future beacons made out of emeralds because flexing matters. Villagers are exhausting, so I take a break and tear down an old lava farm. I don't really use much lava yet, but I have never built a proper dripstone farm, so I thought I would incorporate it. I only had 12 dripstone to start with, which was not really enough, so I flew to a dripstone cave and collected more manually. Procrastination defeated. Briefly. As you can probably imagine, this farm is incredibly slow. Painfully slow. If I had not tested it in creative, I would not believe that it actually works. It has a really super simple design. These observers spend their existence waiting for one of the slowest growth stages in Minecraft, and eventually are pleased, spewing out their excitement in a redstone signal. This forces some pistons to do a little work. Once again, the items are collected and sent up to the bulk storage system. Regardless of this farm being incredibly slow, that's all fine. Everything in the silo is small and passive, so over time it will add up. Next, moss. No starter base is complete without a moss farm. Great for building and decoration purposes, and instead of me needing to convert stone into mossy variants, I can just convert them directly using the moss. This is a compact design with stone generators pushing blocks inwards, breaking moss and flushing any items that get popped up into water collection streams. Some of the output is then recycled into bone meal, which feeds the farm. Clever guys. Normal moss can also be swapped for pale moss at a later stage. And since the farm is toggleable, it only runs when I need it to. Once again, going for the optimization efficiency curve of the base. Yeah, that makes sense. Less lag equals more sanity. However, before continuing, I noticed that I'm low on redstone and glowstone yet again. Fortunately, past me was smart and built a trading hall. Time to go do some more trading. I trade crops for emeralds, emeralds for resources, and emeralds for XP and tool repairs. I also infect and cure all the villagers for some cheaper prices. Everything is working pretty well so far, and I'm in a state of disbelief. Yeah, more than likely something's probably going to break sooner or later. The next farm we're going to be working on is a wool farm. I don't really need much of that yet, but I want one of every color. Wool will become useful, and carpets probably at some stage. Anyways, sheep are easy to deal with, shouldn't be a problem. This is a standard observer-based shear farm. The sheep eat the grass, the observer detects the grass block state change, and then the sheep is sheared. I limit the amount of shears manually inside of each dispenser, instead of automatically restocking them, so that I avoid overproduction. This means that I have to restock every now and then, but for now I can live with that. Each cell has 1 sheep per color, so only 16 sheep in total. Low sheep head count, low lag, happier computer. This next farm needs no explanation. It's a cactus farm. Cacti grow, cacti are auto-chopped by these iron bars somehow, and cacti are shipped off for storage. Free green dye. Moving on. Ooh, look! A cat! Mine. Whilst doing the big dig for the silo, I uncovered an amethyst geode. which means that it's time to add another painfully slow farm. Do I need amethyst right now? No. Am I building a farm anyways? Obviously. This monstrosity uses a very slow clock to fire pistons every couple of hours. The crystals break, the items travel through hopper spaghetti, and everything ends up in bulk storage. Thankfully, all of this is hidden by the silo, so I can forget it exists and enjoy the free amethyst crystal shard things. Next up, slime. I'm super tired of chickens and bad slime conversion, and once again I'm running low on slime. So I built a very effective slime farm using oozing potions, designed by Big Booty. Snow golems are crammed, oozed, killed, and converted into hundreds of slimes, probably even thousands. Those slimes are then shipped to a kill chamber where I can finish them off with a looting sword for maximum sliminess. Thousands of slime in minutes, just the way I like it. Once again, please check out the creator Big Booty. A huge thank you to them for making my life much easier. All the slime balls are collected and auto-crafted into slime blocks and sent to storage. The snowballs from the oozified snowmen are auto-crafted into snow blocks to feed the farm, and if I need any more, I can use the snow golem ball generator 9000. Simple, elegant, and slightly unhinged. The final edition of the silo is an auto-crafting area for redstone components. I'm getting really tired of crafting a lot of this manually, especially dispensers. Each autocrafter has its own chamber, input chest, and output straight into the storage system. Dispenser and piston recipes get dedicated setups, and smaller recipes share these generic crafters. With all of these crafters running simultaneously and feeding into the main storage system will probably save me a fair amount of time. Now finally I get to load them up with quartz, cobble and redstone, and thankfully I can start automating some observers, pistons and dispensers so that future Gareth is pleased. At this point, I've added all the basic farms to the silo. There are still a few empty spaces left for future additions, which is basically a polite way of saying my brain hurts and I'll deal with them later. After drowning in technical details for way too long, I think it's time to switch gears and to do something creative. Right now, the silo is functional, but visually it's a bit lackluster, bland and deeply uninspiring. But don't worry, I have a few ideas to fix that. Right now, as I travel between levels in the silo, the floors all look very similar. I have no idea which floor I'm on and which farms are on that floor without actually going to the floor and taking a look. To improve that, I built up some indicators for each room on each floor of the silo. These let me easily and visually distinguish which floor I'm on, which direction I'm facing, and which farm is where. For example, melons and pumpkins. One guess as to what's inside here. What about this one? No farm indicators and facing north. This has to be the elevator room. And now, with my sense of direction restored and back in action, it's time for the actual silo cherry topper thing to get some work started on. Yeah, that sounded good. Now for the actual cherry on top of the silo. And to be clear, I literally mean on top of the silo. Above ground, on the mountain. More details to come. For once, I do the sensible thing and jump into a creative copy of the world to prototype some ideas. In creative mode, I test shapes, colors, and palettes that match the silo and the surrounding terrain. Then, back in survival mode, it's time to gather just a few more blocks and items. This seems to be a recurring event. I need huge amounts of tuff and copper, which means mining. A lot of mining. Thankfully, while building the melon and pumpkin farm earlier, I stumbled across what appears to be a copper vein. Do you see all of this excavated area around here? Yep, copper mining, not bad. Unfortunately, even all that copper is still nowhere near enough. I need over 2 shulker boxes of copper blocks, and I'm absolutely not digging any more by hand. So naturally, this means that I get to build another farm. Not sure if this makes me lazy or efficient, but I'm going with efficient. So it's time that I built the drown farm for copper. To build the copper/drown farm, I need to collect a fresh batch of mining materials. First, 21 shulker boxes of white stained glass. Luckily, I can mine sand near my mob farm. That shouldn't take too long and I'll probably end up leveling a whole bunch of terrain. Also, hello random nether camel. Yep, you guys are coming with me now. Now I get to travel a couple hundred blocks in the nether with you slow dudes. Woohoo! Thank goodness I always keep some leads handy in my ender chest. Secondly, I need 2 shulker boxes of soul sand, some fun in the nether, a few near misses there, but nothing too tragic. Thirdly, I need about half a shulker of obsidian. The easiest way for me to probably get this is going to be to head back over to the dragon graveyard in the end and mine down some of those tasty obsidian pillars. Everything else that I need is either easy to get or already in my storage system. With those supplies ready, it's time to head over to the farm location. I chose this river a few thousand blocks north of the silo so that it does not become a massive eyesore, especially since I use Voxy and I can see absurd distances. For example, over there you can see the general mob farm / mining desert, and just behind me to the south you can see where the mountainous terrain is where the starter base is. River biomes are ideal for drowned farms. This one is perfect. It's quite a large river, which gives me quite a continuous area across multiple chunks to build the farm in, which is probably going to increase my spawn rates quite a bit. P.S. Drowns absolutely love spawning in rivers, so yeah, that's why we're doing this. Anyways, enough talking, it's time for me to get building. Firstly, I probably need to remove a whole bunch of nearby spawnable areas in this zombified village, so yeah, I think I need to shut up and actually get to building. And here it is, a drowned / copper farm. Only drowned are able to spawn in the water tanks, and they get pushed up by the soul sand, funneled through scaffolding, flushed into nether portals, and sent to a killing chamber. Eventually, they return to the overworld briefly, meet their fate, and generously donate any copper they may have been holding. The drops are sorted automatically, rotten flesh is incinerated because I already have too much, copper is auto-crafted into blocks and stored, nautilus shells and drowned heads are also sorted and stored, tridents, fishing rods and extras are once again stored, ready to be ignored for the next 100 years in this world. Finally, any overflow items are deleted to avoid lag and sadness. The farm is based on a design by Incolia. I modified it to suit my needs and it works great. It could probably be built in a perimeter for higher rates, but for now this is enough, and I've got some future plans down the line for some massive perimeters and big farms, so I'll just add this to that list. Rather than AFKing myself, I call my good friend Steve. Thank you, Carpet Mod. And I'll just let him handle all the drowned slaughter. Kinda have a few more important things to do, like gathering even more blocks for the silo cherry topper, so I'm gonna go do that and Steve's gonna hang out over here. Back at the silo, the resource gathering begins. I already have most of what I need, but a few extras are still missing. The salt is easy. Quick trip to the nether, place down a beacon, mine, and finally convert to smooth basalt. Next, I'm going to need a whole bunch of black concrete. This means I need to do a quick detour back to the copper drown farm, hunt a few squid, head back home, convert their ink into black dyes, convert the dye, gravel and sand into some black concrete powder, and then finally convert it with a block converter. I also need a whole bunch of furnaces for decoration purposes, So I'm just going to shove a whole bunch of cobblestone into an auto crafter and it can create those for me whilst I gather all the other materials I need. Thankfully, mossy cobblestone is no longer a problem. Moss farm plus auto crafters equals win. Lime glass is also pretty simple. I'm going to head over to the bulk storage to grab some cactus. I'm going to take said cactus and pop it into the furnace array. Finally, green dye plus white dye makes lime dye. And then the last step in this process, lime dye plus glass equals profit. For crying obsidian, I head on over to the nether once again. I built up a little bit of a temporary piglin bartering setup. Basically, all you need to do is feed some gold into this dispenser, press this button once, then the piglins trapped inside the cell will individually pick up a piece of gold one at a time. When they pick the gold up off the weighted pressure plate, this sends a redstone signal and triggers the dispenser to drop a new gold ingot ready for bartering. Back at the silo, everything else I need from this massive list over here comes straight from the main storage system. With all these shulker boxes loaded and ready, there's just one final dig before building. Once again, thank goodness for those beacons I threw up around the base. Small interruption, I still don't have enough copper blocks. So once again, I had to go and AFK at the drown farm overnight. Here is the loot that I got from about 8 hours of AFK drown slaying. Not too amazing for the copper rates. Also, I will never need to hunt down a trident again. All these chests are absolutely full with miscellaneous items. I ended up building a little bit of a copper oxidizer / ager thingamabob down here. All you need to do for this setup is you need to have a couple of rows of oxidized copper against which you place your copper blocks, and the oxidized copper plus the air above the copper blocks that you place down kind of help the copper to age a little bit quicker, and it's still kind of like watching paint dry. With all of that done and resources collected, let's get building the silo topper. Here it is. What better way to enjoy the mountain air than staring at pixelated stars through a giant fake telescope. Maximum grass touching avoidance achieved. At the bottom, towards the top of the silo, there are some water elevators room connecting the silo to the observatory itself. This means that I can go from one floor to the next without having to fly. Alternatively, speaking about flying, I can actually just fly through this angled tunnel, which is technically sized for moving happy goths around if needed. It's a little bit of a tight squeeze, but they fit both going up and coming down. I ended up building a gas station into the observatory. I wanted to give some functionality back to some of my builds, so I thought that would be a pretty cool thing to invest in. My gas station can store up to 2 ghasts in these nifty little storage station things, safely locking the ghasts in place. There are also 2 stations to help me rehabilitate some unhappy dried ghasts. Both stations have a dispenser with a water bucket in it. I get to flip this button. Eventually, once they are happy again, they can be leashed nearby at these leashing posts. Then I can either wait for them to grow, or I can use some snowballs to speed up the growing process, and we've got some more ghasts ready to go. To make this even easier, I decided to add infinite snow source using a trapped snow golem. Inside the observatory room itself, there is a telescope. In hindsight, it looks significantly more like a giant flesh-colored teaspoon / ray gun, but I'm gonna leave that there for now and see how I feel about it a bit later. I added a little bit of flair to the telescope using observers and copper bulbs to power the definitely real space laser. Just beneath the telescope, there is a walkway to get around, a control station so that I can pretend that this whole thing moves, and some other decorative items like this crane to shift gear up and down from the 2 levels, as well as these large gears to kind of give the build life, almost as if by activating something these gears turning the observatory. Yeah, that makes sense, right? Is most of this all made up? Yes. Does it make me happy? Also yes. There are definitely still a few things that I could improve on. Transition from the mountain, snow, ice to the actual observatory is a bit off, so my landscaping / terraforming definitely needs work. Anyways, that pretty much wraps up everything for this episode. The starter farms are built, connected to bulk storage, and decorated. I now have a functional starter base with villager trading, resources, enchantments, and all the essentials covered. And now that the top and middle of the silo are done, all that remains is the bottom. Perhaps a little bit of foreshadowing for the next episode? Subscribe and find out. This is where I'm going to call it for today. If you have made it this far, thank you very much for watching. It's hugely appreciated. Let me know what you think of the base, or if you have any ideas for things I should add. Leave a like if you enjoyed the video and subscribe to see where this world goes next. See you later and thanks again.